and let him get underway. So welcome, Rob.
Thank you. Right, let's get this going first. Hopefully you can see this slide. Share my screen, that will always help. Oh, okay.
Share.
Aha, here we go. Screen 2. Right. Let's try again. How's that?
You can see that now.
Yes, good. So, Xero, accounting and beyond. My colleague Laura did suggest that I put a picture of Buzz Lightyear up there instead, but I politely declined. So what we're just going to have a look through today is firstly just a quick general introduction overall to Xero. Look at why I think you should be using it. I'm a bit biased, but it's a very good product personally, and we use it with virtually all of our clients. Then I'm going to have a little look at how to get the most out of it. Crucially, then the reporting, and also Xero integrations, because Xero is been designed from the outset to be able to integrate with pretty much most things that you would need to run your business. And even beyond that, anything that you want designed bespoke can also be integrated very easily. So, why use or introduction to Xero? So it's founded in 2006 in New Zealand initially. It's one of the fastest growing software as a service companies globally. From startup to 2.7 million subscribers globally in 14 years. That might not sound as wowy as you think, but going back to 2006, this really was groundbreaking. They've got 3,500 plus employees, and Xero's purpose is to make life better for small businesses. And actually, what's really important to a lot of small business users going forward is that Xero's strategic priority is to grow their small business platform and actually further extend it. So their capabilities are going to be far beyond accounting and compliance. In the past, they've bought Workflow Max. They've just bought something called Plan Day, which, if you've seen all the adverts on TV for Monday.com, is a very similar solution. So they are looking to further extend their service offerings far beyond accounts, but always with the idea that it all integrates seamlessly. In terms of the size of the company and how well they're doing, which you also want to know because you want to know that the company's stable and they're going to be there. So for the last financial year, 848 million Australian dollars, which is 459 million pounds in terms of turnover, and an EBITDA figure of 103 million GBP. Currently, they've got, well, it's grown since this, but 720,000 subscribers in the UK alone, and that grew at 17% in the last year alone. So why use Xero? Everything's in one place, from payroll to expenses, and it all integrates seamlessly. You can automate all manner of different tasks within the system. You can very quickly get a full financial picture of how your business is doing. And now they've also added corporation tax and statutory account filings off the back of it as well. So you can do that directly from Xero also. You can automate paying bills directly from Xero through your bank account. You can do all the compliance stuff in terms of submitting VAT and CIS returns online, as well as also payroll. You can have expense claims, automatic bank connections and bank feeds and reconciliations, accept payments. You can track projects, payroll, as I just mentioned, data capture, which is you can attach all your supplier invoices and things like that and email them directly into Xero. So all that information is retained in the system. And you've got the beauty of all manner of add-on applications and integrations. So how do you get the most out of Xero? If the data is in Xero, you can report on it. And I'm going to flip in a minute to actually looking at Xero itself. But just to quickly run through the kind of things that we'll quickly show you. We'll look at the workflow from quoting to invoicing and debt collection, which can all be automated within the system. Automatic bank feeds, payroll, payments, being able to invoice from inside Xero itself, directly to clients and actually directly to other users of Xero. It'll actually go into their Xero system directly if you have that set up. You can very quickly track the most important costs that you need to see in your business. Stock control in a limited fashion, but it is there. Products and services, which if you have a lot of consistent products or services that you issue, you can set those up and actually will save you a lot of time going forward. Fixed asset registers, all inside the system, can calculate all your depreciation automatically for you. It will run those journals automatically month on month. Projects as well, which Laura will touch on and take you through. And as I said, the statutory accounts and tax filings and calculations at the back end. So if I just stop. So I'm just going to flip into Xero and then I'll reshare my screen. Okay. Okay, so hopefully now. Hopefully you can see a profit and loss account. So let's go right back to the beginning. So a very simple dashboard at the front of all of this, where you can very quickly see a snapshot of how you're doing, all your sales invoices that have been issued or that are in draft, what's awaiting payment overdue. You can click into all of these things very quickly and get to the data that you want to see. Same with your bills. You get all your bank feeds that come through automatically into here. But first of all, let's have a look at quotes.
Just one thing on that dashboard. Can you
Yeah.
change the look of your dashboard? Can you add things and take things off?
Yes, you can. So you've got an edit dashboard function right at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you can move things around. You can also hide things if there's certain things that aren't of any interest to you. So you could hide the total cash in and move things around like that. So I mean, there's a limited amount of stuff that you can add. It's mainly the account watch lists, invoices owed, bills paid, cash in and out, and then oh yes, and the expenses, and then plus all your bank feeds. But you can turn those on and off as you want and lay them out as you want.
See so the unhidden ones, or the ones that are hidden, or where would be the list of things you could add to that list?
So literally everything that's on here is the total list that they have currently. Okay. So you'll see that I've just previously I hid this, and now I'm editing again. It says show instead of hide.
Okay, so if it's not on there, you can't add to that.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
So quotes. So you can create a quote in the system. You can actually assign it to a project as well, which is something that Laura will touch on a bit later. So you can start typing. You don't need to know the full name of the client. You literally first letter or first couple of letters, and it will come up anything it can find. So click that. Quote number, reference number. Items. So you can actually set up in the background a whole list of items. So if you are regularly invoicing 4 golf balls, for example, 3 golf balls isn't enough for me, so I'll have 6. You literally, and you've got standard pricing, you pick on the item which you've already set up in the system, it will pull all the information through automatically there and then for you. So description, the quantity, the unit price. So literally, if you've got it set up correctly, if this is suitable to your business, you'd literally change just the quantity. That would be all you need to change. And it will then put all that data through straight away. You can then hit send, or you can assign it to a project from here. So here we go. So launch cafe. What you're going to do with the golf balls in a cafe, I don't know, probably smash a few things, but so you can assign that and that will go off direct to the project. You can then put in a load, you can attach your terms and conditions to this. You can put some notes, further other bits and pieces, hit send to whoever you're going to do. Send it to Laura. You can tell it's already pulled through the information. This is all standard stuff that you set up in the background. So all your standard wording that you want to go out with your quote. You can send a copy to yourself as well as confirmation that's definitely gone. Hit send. And off it goes. So your customer can actually respond to this if they want to and say, oh, can you knock 10% off? Can you do whatever? This would then appear in this and you either change it, don't, So it can actually be automated. So it's all done through the system of communications. You can then mark it as accepted. You can revise it. Again, you can assign it to a project at this stage if the project hadn't already been set up. So we are going to mark this as accepted. So you can now, once it's accepted, create an invoice from it as well. So straight from here, you could create the invoice. That's again pulled all the data straight through, exactly you had before. It's currently in a draft format at this stage because you haven't approved it. Literally approve that. Oh, you need to put due date in. This is another good part of Xero. If there's anything missing, it will let you know. And it will highlight the box in red so you know exactly which one it is. That's my excuse for doing it wrong on purpose. That's now approved. Not only that, so now if you had, let's go sales overview. Right, so under sales overview and in the actual sales invoices, you've got a complete capture of everything, whether it's awaiting payment, draft, etc., etc. And you can click into all these different sections along the top as well. But what I really want to show you is you've also got something called Invoice Reminders. You can set up within here an automated debt chasing system. So you can have emails that go out automatically at 7 days, 14 days, 21, however you want it. You can set up what the text is, etc., etc. And it will automatically then, you can set up different bits down here. So it will add another copy of the invoice when the email goes out as well. So they get everything a second time. Or if there's bits where you don't want to be chasing items under a certain value, you can select that as well. So it's quite a useful tool to start doing some unintrusive debt collection, chasing, etc., without you without requiring you to actually manage it and monitor it. This can all be automated. You can also make sure that you get the replies will come to you, will send replies. If there's anything, will come direct to you as well. So if you've got any customers therefore that get this, get a reminder, send you a message that says, we're going to pay in 10 days. You can actually go into a notes section for each client and then put that in, and it's all there for you. And so anyone else then comes along and has a look at it. Those notes are there and they can see what's been going on and what's been done to date. Automatic bank feeds. Do you want me to carry on with this, Laura? Yeah. So there's hardly a bank that this does not connect with. And if it doesn't connect with your bank, you're probably dealing with a bank that doesn't have that much of a commercial presence. The last time I looked, it's about 50 different banks that it connects to within the UK, and every high street one you can possibly think of is there, plus all the sort of new startups such as Tide, Monzo, Metro Bank, Starling Bank. So there really is a wide option. Once you've set it up, transactions will automatically come into the bank every day. Normally updates once or maybe twice a day. And then beautifully for any transactions that you've already put in terms of suppliers, bits that are owed money, and then you've made the payments, it'll automatically find them if it's an exact match and go green. And it will give the option as well, if there's a couple of them, it will say one of two down here. So if it's not the right one, you can select the other one. You just click OK, and that's it. It's reconciled. So that's a very quick and easy bank reconciliation process that saves you an awful lot of time going forward. So Xero Payroll. Again, this can be, and you can turn this off and on. So if it's not applicable to you, you don't have to pay for it. So the beauty of this is that it's all built in within the system. So when you process a pay run, all the journals get posted automatically for you. So if you're currently have an external accountant that is doing your payroll for you and they're doing it in their system, get them to change, get them to do it in your Xero, because there's no point them reinventing the wheel and charging you for them coming into your system, posting the journals. Also means your data is not as live as it could be. So literally, as soon as you post a payroll run, it goes into your accounts, both into the profit and loss and balance sheet automatically.
Is the payroll an extra charge, or is it all part of it?
Yes, so it's a £5 per month, and that's for the first 5 up to the first 5 employees, and then it's £1 per employee thereafter per month. So it's not, it's not particularly cost prohibitive. You also get the added benefits that if it's within this system, you have something in here which is I don't think I can do this because I haven't got. So if these all had emails, you could invite them, tick this box, tick them all, and this would go blue and it says invite to my payroll. It means all your staff can get access to just their section of their payroll, nothing else. They can view their pay slips, they can print off historical pay slips, historical P60s. So all that hassle of your staff phoning you up going, oh, I can't find so-and-so pay slip, all gone. Or you then having to get in contact with your external accountant to get the pay slips, all gone, all in here. Where shall we go? Payments. Xero connects with
We do have one question from Damien on the quotes.
Yes.
He's got, if the quote is a multi-sectional duty, 1 to 6, we may only invoice 50% of duty 1 and 2 in month 1, the remainder in subsequent months.
Yes, so that's fine. So what you would do is in the invoice, so the quote would go out showing the full price. And then, if I'm understanding the question correctly, and then all you would do is when you come to raising the invoice, you would literally so from here, you would just put in, edit this. So you could put it in here as a discount to show that you're only invoicing 50%. Let's put 50 rather than 0.5, 5%. So you could do it that way. You could do it in another way by changing the quantity. If it's only part delivered, for example, or if there's only certain line items that you're invoicing, you'd invoice just those at that time, and the others you wouldn't. That works okay through the quoting system, but if you have a lot of that, it works far better if you do it through projects.
Sorry, I was just wanting to clarify. We're professional duties, so we kind of, I don't know, we build a computational model, and then part 1 maybe build the computational model, part 2 maybe the heat loss calculations.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
So kind of it's not a physical quantity. It's
fine.
It's part of a report.
So Laura will touch on this later, because I think projects will be far more suited to you for that, because within projects you can actually set. I mean, you can do it on the quote as well, but in projects you can set up specific tasks. And so exactly that could be, task 1, initial scoping, section 2, draft build, section 3, testing and implementation, so on and so forth. That you can set up as individual tasks against a project. You can record time then against those individual tasks, so you get to see how well or not, as the case may be, you're doing against each task, because you can set a budget against each task as well, or a billing amount that should be there, whether that be hourly rates or a fixed price. So I would use projects to sort that for you, but I think that will become clearer when Laura goes through projects in a minute. Back to Xero. So just a couple other bits on Xero Payroll. So as you'd expect with any cloud-based system or any accounting system these days, it links directly to HMRC. It will pull down any tax code changes for individuals straight from HMRC into this. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about things going missing in the post and someone hasn't updated someone's tax code. That all happens automatically. You've also got the ability to put in pensions and pensions filings as well. And then obviously all the taxes and filings go directly from here into HMRC also. One of the other beauties with having payroll built in here, which does impact on reporting depending on how you set up your reporting, which we will come to later. So for an employee, when this updates, so let's say you've got various different departments within your organization or regions or however it's set up. You can, if I can find it, actually allocate them to a sales sector, region, particular consultancy category, which means if you're then trying to compare different departments, you get the salary journals that go directly to those areas of your business. And again, it does that all for you automatically in the background when it's set up. Wait for my page to refresh. Here we go. So employee group. So if you set up employee groups, you can literally allocate them to a group, which will therefore make their payroll costs go to that department or group or area, however you've defined it and named it, into your accounts. So not only will it give you an overall picture, but you can then ask your accounts to look at regions or however you set up tracking options, and it will give you that split of all their wages into those particular sections at the same time. So again, having it inside Xero just gets rid of a whole load of additional hassle and complications with journals and having to post things behind the scenes to get the information where you want it to be. Payments. So Xero links with all manner of things, and I'm just going to, I have got permission to do this, by the way. So this happens to be a client of ours. It's also my wife's business. So hence why it was easy to get the permission. So accepting payments. That'll do. You can see how quickly, though, just from this example again, if you've got all your items set up, how much time it saves you in inputting. It just pulls all the information that you've set up before automatically straight through. So I'm going to prove this after putting in my due date, of course. Now, straight away, because this has got online payments set up, and again, this was set up straight from within Xero, you can link automatically to PayPal, to Stripe, to WorldPay, and all manner of others. So this is already set up in the background. So if I now send this, so you will now get an invoice, or I will get an invoice. I get a PDF of the invoice sent out to me. I can look at it. Eventually. Okay, come on. You can when the internet's not being slow. Instead, while I'm waiting for that to do things, I can just hit the Pay Now button. This takes you straight to Xero. You select how you want to pay. Don't have to be. You don't have to belong to PayPal. Click to continue. You process the payment, fill in all your bank details, so on and so forth. That will then automatically reconcile the transaction in Xero for you. It will come up straight away. I won't show you all. I'm not going to put in my bank card details, etc., etc. But what that does is then it comes into your dashboard straight away. If I'd actually processed the payment, and it will have automatically already reconciled it and if I'd actually gone through and paid it, it would show the receipt in here. It would automatically know which invoice it is because it pulls that information through PayPal. You just click OK because it will already be green, and that's the end of it. So from a payment perspective, you can really save a lot of time and energy in terms of actually getting your clients to pay you. So I'm just going to go straight back in the demo company. We will touch a little bit more on payments later on. We just show you a lot of the Xero integrations. So we've done sort of payments, invoicing from inside Xero. Sort of you've seen that as well. You literally, as long as you've got their email addresses set up in the system, you can invoice directly out of Xero itself. Tracking the most important costs in your business. You've got an account watch list on your dashboard. If you are particularly worried about certain accounts that you want to see at a drop of a hat, you can just add them to this account watch list. So anything in here, advertising, marketing, for example, actually go through that. Show on dashboard watch list. So literally all you do is go into the accounts that you want, and this is within your chart of accounts in Xero. You can pick anything in here that you can possibly think of. So charitable donations, that's already there. Can't I find one that isn't? No, that one, there we go. So click show on dashboard watch list, click save, go back to your dashboard. And there it is, simple as. So very nice, quick, easy way just to see the main areas of cost in your business that you want to see at a drop of a hat. Stock control. So not many people use this, but Xero does actually have a stock control system within it. So you have something called products and services, and you can do one or two things with these. To start with, this is where you put in all your item codes that I was showing earlier, where you just pick an item code and it pulls in all the rest of the info that you've already set up automatically for you. However, what you can do is you've got a choice to use something called tracked inventory. At the moment, none of these, I don't think they are. Maybe a couple. You can tick on any one of these and ask it to be tracked. If you do that, so this again is a useful thing to show you. So literally you click on any of these blue items here as you're going through to do things. You're not sure what it is. It will take you straight to the relevant parts within Xero Help for you to get to all that information. But if you were to select for these to be tracked, options, here we go. If you tick that to say that it was going to track it, you'd tell it where you wanted it to go in the balance sheet, which in this case defaults to inventory. You would then put in, as you've bought stuff, how many units of them you've got. Then when you go to sell it, obviously how many units you're selling, this will automatically track all of those. So all your ins and outs. And it'll actually tell you when you're out of stock and you try to sell something that you don't have. I'm not going to go into the detail of it, but it's an additional function that's in there that not many clients use. So
How do you find that against other stock systems? Would you say that's sort of a pretty basic system, or does that?
Yes, I would say there's the stock control is pretty basic. The same with the quotes, and actually for both of those, more than anything, it's the reporting side out the back as well that's not as good as it would be if you're using a specific bit of software that just concentrates on that area and nothing else. Doesn't mean it can't be integrated. So
Would it then show a stock report then if you track that item?
yes. So so we've got under inventory, these are literally the only reports that you've got. So you can see your list, details, summary. And as you can see, it doesn't exactly give you loads of information. However, opening quantity, quantity sold, if you were to click everything in here. So now you can see opening quantity, quantity sold, closing quantity. So it does it does give it to you in a basic format. So it just depends to what level of degree you want to go with the information that you need out of the system, as to whether you want to use this or use something else that's more bespoke to stock control. But you can just use this. So it used to be called stock, it's now called products and services, which is a little confusing. But you can choose not to track items and just use it for the purpose of speeding up your invoicing process by setting up all your item codes and the standard text that you want, the cost price, the quantities, all those kind of things. So you can do it that way without tracking it if tracking is not such an important thing for you, especially if you're dealing with invoicing time rather than products. So fixed assets, just another quickie on that. So you can add fixed assets in here as part of your fixed asset register, and you can set up all the various different depreciation methods you can think of. So straight line, reducing balance. You can put in all the start dates, all the descriptions, everything that you would want of a full fixed asset register. Once you save this and it's registered, it will then automatically, well, you've got two choices. It can do it automatically, or you hit run depreciation, set the date that you're running it to, hit confirm. It's got no depreciation assets in this instance, and it would automatically post all the depreciation journals between the balance sheet and the profit and loss for you. Not only that, as part of the reporting, you've then got fixed asset reconciliation report, which may not actually be, I don't know. So this would, if this was set up properly in the demo company, you'd be able to see that it checks it back to what's in the balance sheet. So therefore you've got an automatic check, and you can very quickly drill into any of these to go and find the information that you need, or reports, or the individual line item details to see where you've got a difference. So let's go. actually. Depreciation schedule. So this would show for each single item that you've got as an asset register, the individual depreciation, the rates, when it was purchased, etc., what depreciation has been run. And you can therefore very quickly find if you've got any errors or adjust anything in your accounts. So I'm now going to hand over to Laura, who's going to spend a few minutes talking you through projects, which is quite a useful tool, again, built into the system that you can turn on or off. So stop sharing a moment.
There's a bit of delay in the screen sharing, isn't there? Okay, so I will also show you the demo company. Let me know when you can see it. Yeah. Okay, so on projects, we have all of these drop downs, which all integrate with projects. So I'll go to the main projects page. And as you can see over here, we have draft projects, which can be things that are in the pipeline, but not quite ready to go yet. Projects that we're currently working on, and closed projects for anything that's finished that you might want to look back on in the future. So when we create a project, 9 times out of 10, we choose in progress. And you create the project from a contact, which is already in your dashboard up here. So as you can see, we've got this bank quest here, which I made earlier. And you decide your project name, so call it whatever you like. We've got project A for this one. And if you've got a deadline, so you want to get it done within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you can select this and it will go through onto the project homepage. Calculate tasks for and estimated expenses. This is if you haven't got a estimated sort of quote that you've given them. So if you've quoted them 10 grand, you would put 10 grand. But if it's an ongoing project, then you would just calculate the pricing from the task and estimated expenses that you set. So I will go into this one where we've got a £10,000 estimate of how much we're going to spend on this project. At the top here, we've got our tasks and expenses. So the tasks you can set up here. We've got tasks here. And with these, like you see here, it can be for anything that you do within that job. So duties, meetings, banking, anything like that. You can set your task. If there's any hours you've set aside for that task, you can put that in here. You can set an hourly rate, you can do a fixed price, or if it's non-chargeable but you want it to still appear on the invoice, then you can do that as well. Expenses, so this can be from bills that you, like Rob showed in invoicing, you can assign it to a project. You do the same within the billing. You assign it to the project and then it will appear at the bottom here. So we've got a bill for insurance, post office expense, and a hosting fee. Now, these are just examples, and you can see that it says it's an untracked expense. So we've got expenses here as well, and these are ones that we know that are going to come through for this project. So we know that every month they're going to have a software license fee, and we know that it's going to be £25. So we'll say that this is the hosting charge, and we'll go to this and select it. And at the bottom right, it says track to estimate. So we can choose, that's that hosting charge. And if you want to, you can do a 10% markup to add a little bit onto it for you, or you can choose to pass the cost on. So for this, we'll add a markup. And as you can see, that then disappears from here and goes up to the expenses here. So that's tasks and expenses. Up here, we've got time and expenses. So that will pull through all of our expenses up to here, and it will tell you how much you've got uninvoiced. Now, with the time, this is a really good feature for time entries. I think there was a question on the chat earlier, which hopefully I'll be able to cover off on here. So daily tasks, you can go into projects and you can do time entries. Now this gives you a calendar week by week. You can go to any date in the past. It doesn't let you go into the future. And say you can select on a Monday, add the time entry, and you choose your project. So I think ours was for Bank West. And the task, we did some banking. You can put whatever you want in there. So let's say we reconciled, it took us half an hour and we save. So you can do that throughout all of the month, and that will be your time that you invoice at the end of the month. So if we go back into projects and look on our Bank West and we go into time, here are all of the time entries for the week, and that all gets pulled across up here. So the task that we did it was banking accounts. That's £65 an hour, which we have set here. And we've spent 2 hours 30 of our time that week. So what we would do then is we would invoice, and you can, with your estimate here, you can choose to pay a deposit, get them to pay you a deposit, project amount, which might be 50% of the project amount. Or if we're just going to do a roll-on monthly invoice, then we would go to our tasks and expenses, select in here. You can select if you want to invoice all of these tasks, and the same with the expenses. You would just unselect if you didn't want that to be on your invoice that month. And then you would pull it through with save and open draft invoice. Now, if you were doing something quite specific and you wanted them to see exactly what you had done that month, you could go to time entries, and what it would pull through is, instead of just these titles, it would pull through the exact staff member, the date, the task, the project, and the description of what they did. It would pull all of that through. So it's just a bit more thorough for specific things. So we would just do tasks for now and open the invoice. So as you can see, it's pulled through all of the tasks and the expenses at the bottom here. So we would set that with the due date, as Rob always forgets. I'll just do this.
Would you have to do that all the time? Or would it remember that post office postage fees was sales in this case?
Yes, you can set it up in the background. So once we're happy with our invoice, we would approve it. And that says that we're happy with it. And we would then, straight from Xero, we would email the invoice out to the customer. This would then come up onto our invoices. Over here, it would come up in awaiting payment. And on the right-hand side, it would say sent, as it does here. And then when the customer views it, it will actually change to viewed, so you know that they've seen the invoice. Another feature in projects is it's really handy to see what your staff are up to and see how effective they are. So we did 88.2% that chargeable hours and 11.8% non-chargeable. So it's a really good way of monitoring your employees to see how effective they're being within the business. And you can also you can add in here a long list of all your employees and their rates of what they charge.
When you put that time in, Laura, could you do it like you were doing a daily timesheet? I know Nick asked about inputting. Could you just sort of do it as if you were an employee and you were going to put 8 hours and then allocate it to 3 different jobs?
Yeah, that's right. So you would do your time entries and you would allocate within your time entry, you would choose the project and then the times, and that's how it would then be allocated to that project. So when you invoice, that time will be in there, so you don't have to do it twice.
So if I was an employee coming in, I would see that for that week I've got 8.3 hours I'd entered, and I'd only entered 1 hour on Monday. That's what I'm seeing from that screen. Okay, so each employee would come in and see their own screen, and everybody else.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think unless anyone's got any questions, that's projects covered off. You've got up here the project summary report. Once it loads.
And is projects is that a paid added service, or does that come with
Yes,
the standard
it is.
Xero? Okay.
Yeah.
And what are we looking at per user for that?
It's £5 per user per month. So here's a project summary, which gives you an overview of all of your projects. You can see how much you've got invoiced to date, how much uninvoiced, what you estimated that project at, and also you can look at your profits from that specific project. So it gives you a good idea of where you're at within your business and how your estimating is creating the profits from what you have and haven't invoiced yet. Okay, Rob, I think over to you.
Just unmute myself. I can't remember what I was going to say in addition to projects now. Yeah, you can do quite a bit of, again, setup in the background. So you don't need to put in like the sales codes every time and things like that. You can actually already have it destined to go to sales, or whichever particular sales code you have, because you may have all manner of different sales codes for different items. Right, so the last bit, which I can't really show you, but I'll just briefly talk to you about it. So what you can't see on the demo company is taxes and filings. It's something you can add. I've got it in hours, but that's because we file accounts and corporation tax for some of our clients. Needs to say it links directly with HMRC and Companies House. It pulls all your previous year's accounting data through automatically, so that data is pre-populated for you. And if anyone's ever manually filled out or used any other software to do a corporation tax return, it's basically identical to that, apart from the fact it's already pulls most of the data that you've already told it to as you've been going through and populating the data for the accounts and the filings. So it automatically pulls the information from Companies House from the previous year. It pulls through all your data that you've got in your accounts from Xero. You're then able to manipulate some of that data and play around with it so that you can move certain costs into certain reporting categories. So, for example, administrative expenses, bank interest received, bits and bobs like that. Most of the times, Xero already gets that right for you anyway, but you can also move those items around if you have to. And then it will automatically file those for you to Companies House and to HMRC. So if you are competent enough to do that yourselves, you can. Alternatively, you can have a bash and then get your accountants to come in and have a look at it. either way, it also makes it a darn sight easier for your accountants to produce that for you within Xero, without it having again to go off to other tax computation software, etc., etc. Which means if you then do ever change accountants in the future, for whatever reason, you've got all your data in Xero. You're not trying to get data off them or any other issues like that. So, Xero reporting. So the first thing I'm going to just briefly chat to you about is nominal codes in terms of the chart of accounts and versus tracking categories. Because you can do a number of things with this. So chart of accounts. So at the moment inside the demo company, we've got a fairly straightforward, I think it's almost pretty much default chart of accounts that Xero supply you with. You can play around with this to your heart's content. You can obviously add an account, but you can also change the coding structure completely. You can actually, where is it, export? So it's got a decent export function where you could export the chart of accounts, change it to what you want it to be. You can then see the format that you need to actually put it into as well if you've got a completely different set of chart of accounts, and then you can upload it back into Xero. So you can very quickly put your own mark on how you want the business set up inside of Xero. Very easy to add accounts. So depending on how you want to show things, sales is the obvious one. So you've got one code for sales at the moment. You could quite easily go in here and call that sales. One of these golf balls. You can then add account. So that's 200. You could add. Where are we? Sales 201, or you could do it 210, depending on how many products and how you want to space things out. Sales golf clubs. Put a little description there as well if you want to. Again, you can get that to show on your dashboard if you need to. Save that. So you can very quickly build up a whole list of different sale items. There's also another way of doing it though, and that is by tracking fields, which it's called tracking in Xero. In virtually everything else you've ever seen, it will be subcodes or department codes, particularly in Sage, it's normally department codes. So it effectively does exactly the same thing. Settings. While I'm actually in this, so this just is everywhere you go up to set a lot of the sort of background information and setup of the system. So in terms of all your payroll settings for HMRC, linking email settings for the kind of things we looked at before for the data chasing, other bits and pieces, payment services. Again, very quickly in here, you can go through and quickly add a payment service like PayPal or Stripe, etc., etc. Oh no. Okay, so settings. Tracking categories. So in here currently, we've got it set up by region. So if you had obviously other offices around the country or whatever, and you wanted to see how east side or north or south or west or Halifax, London, wherever you can think of. You can set up your own tracking options, give it a name, give it the options, and then you can allocate sales to those tracking options as you go. You can allocate costs in the same way. So if you want to keep you can mix and match. You could get far more detail out of your reports by having tracking options. You can get more detail by adding further nominal codes in the chart of accounts, or you can do a bit of both. I think it's quite handy doing a bit of both, depending on what you're doing and how you're set up, to try and keep to give you as much flexibility from a reporting perspective, which I'll demonstrate in a few moments. Tracking is certainly something you might well want to consider. You can make it even more complicated because you can have only two, but you can have two tracking options at any one time. So you can have it by salesperson and office. You could have it by sector, and then broken down into services within that sector. All manner of different ways that you can think of. You could have a couple of tracking categories that will give you a lot more information that you'll be able to track in your business. So budgets. So within Xero, you can also put in your budgets. You can then start comparing and seeing how you've been doing. So in reports, you've got Budget Manager. Now, this is quite a useful tool. Simple in some ways, but as a start off, very powerful. So, for example, when you set a new budget, it can either be an overall budget, or if you set like this, test for one that I set up earlier, and you can actually decide whether, if you've got regions, for example, so the tracking stuff that I just showed you, you can set a budget for each region if you wanted to, or you can set a budget for the company overall. So if we look at the overall budget, you can very quickly get some information in here. So for example, start off of the year, say you've got 2 or 3 different choices. You can just put a fixed amount in each month, go apply, and it'll automatically put down for you £1,000 a month all the way across. Thank you very much. Or you can take that out and you can say that you're going to start off with 1,000, you put in your first bit, but then you're going to increase it by £100 every single month. And it will automatically do that for you. Alternatively, you can say, well, I'm going to adjust it by a percentage each month, and I'm going to grow 5% month on month. And it will do that for you as well, all the way across. So those things you can do very quickly. If that doesn't fit for you, you just put in the numbers manually. And so on and so forth. And you can do that at every single line entry that you've got a nominal code for your profit and loss. So you can see that very quickly in here, you can build a budget. You can also do it in ways of having different scenarios. So you could have an overall budget like this. You could then create a new budget and call it worst case. And then start going through and putting in your worst case scenario, and you could do one for your best case. So you could very quickly then, look, when we look at some other reports, compare your actuals to date with then your budgets going forward, either worst case or best case, and get a flavour as to where you think you might be and where you are. So that gives you a very quick sort of intro into Budget Manager. Hopefully you can see that's pretty simple to fill, and actually simple to amend as well.
Bob, it says at the bottom there, import and export.
Yes.
Does that mean you can export this, do it in a spreadsheet,
Yes.
and then re-import it again?
Yes, it does. Yes. So if instead of exactly, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So literally, you can export that to CSV, Excel, Google Sheets. So if we do it as it is, there you go. So you could populate all this data outside the system and then just import it. So everyday reports. So within Xero, there's 2 or 3 different, well, there's 2 different profit and loss reports, and I'll sort of show you a bit of both of them. So this is very simple profit and loss account, shows all your transactions for the year to date. What you can do, very quickly, is have a very quick analysis of what cost elements are making up your largest ticket items by percentage. So you can see very quickly, literally by just clicking on here, show percentage of turnover. So obviously sales is showing us 100%, and then from that it works out each individual line to date and what percentage that is against your sales. So you can very quickly see, you know, your main things being advertising and marketing, 16%, postage, freight and courier, 11%. What this does, which is really useful, is then if you're comparing several years, because if we now, let's go back, let's see how much data we've got in the demo company, not a huge amount. However, what this does do very quickly is you might suddenly see down here, for example, that your costs have gone up from 14,000 to 34,000. You think, crikey Moses, what the heck's happened here? But that's not the important bit that you need to know. You need to know what it is relative to sales, because as long as your sales has gone up, which it obviously has here, from 9,500 to 52,000, then actually you can very quickly see that overall your cost as a total cost as a percentage of sales has actually gone down. So it just gives you a very quick and better snapshot as to how the business is doing, without just suddenly looking at individual bits of data that you just panic about because you see your costs have gone up by 20 grand. Well, so what? It's the fact that overall your costs have come down as a percentage of sales. So that's just a very...
Could you just go back into that more, Rob?
Yeah.
Because the button I like is get rid of the percentage, the decimals.
Oh yeah, show decimals.
So I hate accounts with decimals in.
Absolutely. So
Anyone's
yes,
sending me reports with decimals on now, you've got no excuse.
that includes me. So yeah, so that's very quickly and easy to do. You can also then filter this. In fact, actually, let me get, before it gets too messy, just going to get rid of this. So you can very quickly filter this report and go, well, show me everything for each side. So this is where your tracking categories come in. You can very quickly see what region, the east side region how that's doing on its own. But what this report doesn't allow you to do is actually see them side by side. So how is east side doing against south or whatever? So there is another profit and loss report. Oh, apologies, going to the right bit. So just very quickly, before I go into that, you'll notice some of these reports have blue stars by them. Having a blue star on it means that it will come down in your list of favorite reports, so you can get to them very quickly. So you can very quickly go, I don't want that profit and loss. I want the old profit and loss, and make that blue. And now go to that one. You'll see a very different profit and loss account. What you can do very quickly is hit compare regions on this one. And this is good for two reasons. One, it gives you a snapshot straight away, seeing them all side by side for all the different regions or products, or however you set up your tracking codes. Also shows you a total for the whole business. What's really nice is it also shows you which items are unassigned. So all of a sudden, you know, well, that's wrong. I need to look at these and assign them to the relevant place. So you click on the click on the figure, and it gives you a full list of all the invoices that haven't been assigned to any category. So you can very quickly go in, find what's missing, put it right. And then you don't have to worry, for example, 9 times out of 10, really, when you're looking at this kind of detail, you're probably going to be looking at income and cost of sales. And then there'll be a whole load of operating expenses that will just go in unassigned because they're not going to a direct branch, for example, or sector. They're being treated as overall business expenses. So insurance being a really good example. So all those items down here may well be unassigned, the majority of them, but you wouldn't worry about it. But you'll know yourselves which ones should be assigned and which ones shouldn't. And as I just showed you, you can very quickly go in and get to that information and put it right. You can very quickly in here compare periods, same as the other one in fairness. This format of the profit and loss is the best way to look at your different categories. That's really why I wanted to show you this one. It's far more user friendly than the other one for that purpose. Outside of that, although it looks different, it does a lot of the same information. So you can choose your month, you can show your number of periods. You might want to just look at the previous, period 1 month, compare with previous 3 periods or 2 periods, update. What you can also do with this is put your budget against it. So all of a sudden, if we go back to common formats and we don't want to compare regions, and we just want to do, come on. It's better. So all of a sudden, what you can do, if you've got your overall budget that you've put in for the 12 months and you're only looking at the first, till July or whatever it may be, it will pull that budget data through up to that period. And you'll be able to see your actual, your budget, and your variance. So you can see how this starts to become more useful in monitoring how your business is doing and actually monitoring your costs. So it may well be that you're doing really well, but you might suddenly find that there's a cost in here that's 100% out, for example. Well, why is that? What it will also do is, although you've got the variance percentage, you also get the amount. which is also a crucial part, because sometimes there's no point going, well, that's 100% out. There's actually 20 quid. Well, I'm not going to bother looking at that. So if you don't have the figure by the side in the actual value, you could end up spending a lot of time chasing things that you really don't want to bother yourself with. So you not only do you get the percent, you also get the variance in value.
And could you add the last year actuals into that report as well? So another column.
That you can't do in here. Ah, I see. So yeah, so I could go period. Oops. So if I change that to 12 months, compare with previous 2 periods. No, it won't. However, there is a way around that. So that won't do that in here, but it will do it when we look at custom reports, which we'll do now, as I see the time is already 1:20. So just go back to reports very quickly. So you can see pretty much is all manner of additional reports to play with, a lot of data in here that you can extract. But as I said, the one biggest area that's missing in here, you'll see nothing for quotes. So if you are wanting to track quotes and conversion rates and things like that, Xero's not for you in that respect. So custom reports. So if we go to profit and loss account.
Could you just give a lot of people are confused with the old profit and loss and the new one. Just give a quick overview of the difference.
So the data is exactly the same, obviously. All this format does, really more than anything, there's not a huge amount of difference. And the main difference is how you get to certain data. So in here, for example, in this is the new one, and actually they brought this version in and got rid of the old one, and a lot of people kicked up a right fuss. So we've now got both versions for mainly this particular reason. So you can still look at different periods. You can still do this month, quarter, this financial year, last financial year, for example, and compare it to the last couple of periods. But you'll notice in here, there's no option to compare to budgets. So there's no budget comparison that you can do easily at the drop of a button. You also, when you're looking at regions, you can select all of them. But all it does is add them together into the totals. It doesn't actually split out the regions. I can change it by going, just show me that. And now shows me that there was nothing in there for that, for last year for that. But you can't very quickly see side by side all your different regions for the tracking purposes, which you can do in the other one. So that's really the main two differences. That how you get to your monthly bits, quarterly, last financial year, and so on, it's different layout, but you get to the same data. It's more than anything, it's that, it's the comparison for different areas that you've set up in the business in terms of your tracking. And also the budget part of it as well. And that is all in the old version of the profit and loss.
And my experience was the old version is worth looking at because out of the box it's quite good and allows you to do some things.
Yes.
But the new version is much more customizable, so you can make it your own, and it's easier to do in the new version than the old one.
Absolutely. So if we now look at the newer version, so with a number of reports, not all of them, and to be honest, for a lot of them, it doesn't actually add anything. You wouldn't want to do it anyway. But certainly for your profit and loss and balance sheet, you've got an edit layout facility. Now, this is really useful because you've got a lot of detail in here, but you might want to see that, but your board of directors certainly won't, for example, or external parties certainly won't. So you can very quickly in here add rows, and you can group things together. So if I very quickly add office costs. Okay, so we want office costs to come down here, and we suddenly want to add all manner of different things to it. So where are we? Rent, whoops, rent, rates, what else might we want to do? Cleaning, there's probably some others, but literally now just drag them all into office costs, and they're all in there. You can then hit that field, narrow it down, so you now just got one line for office costs. You can do the same for sales and marketing. Employment costs is another good one. Oh, let's just change that one, sorry. So let's director remuneration, for example, you might want it split out, you might not. There could be pension costs, you might have medical stuff. There's pension, salaries. You could even have staff training. Oops. Do that again. And again, literally just drag them up all into there, goes into there, and then you can do that for whatever you want in there, and then all of a sudden, nothing happens. What's that? Not done that. It's annoying. Right. Oh, so you got it there. That should.
There might not be anything in it. Well,
oh, that's very true. Thank you, Kate. It's a very good point. Let's try and find something. Office. Let's go back. There we go. So, light, heat, and power. Let's drag that into office costs. Done. So you now see office costs, light, heat, and power isn't in here now. It's all under office costs. If you click under office costs, hopefully. There you go. You've got cleaning, heat, light, and power, rates, rent, all under the same part. So you could very quickly make your profit and loss account in terms of all your administrative accounts, into about 5 sections. Office, advertising, marketing, employment costs, general overheads, and job done. So all of a sudden you can make this a lot more concise for external parties or parties that are looking at this once a month rather than needing to see the individual detail.
you just show adding a column as well, so you could put the budget in the column.
Yes. So you can very quickly in here So you can put in a formula column, notes, a percentage, region. So again, if you wanted to split out your regions, this is how you do it in this format. But you can also put in budget. So you can put in your 22 overall budget for the financial year, but you could just put it for the month. And then you can select the month. So you could very quickly in these columns, so in here, this doesn't have to be financial year. This could also be the month. So this could be the month of March. You could change that to March 2022 for overall budget. Done. See what this looks like with the data that's in here. Nothing in there, but you've got the, because we obviously haven't gone as far as March 22, but you've got the budget figures. So you could very quickly put in all manner of extra columns in here and have date column. You can just drag those across and move it. So that could be not financial year, month, and that could be February. You could then do that January, et cetera, for all the months. You could also do this in a way that you could have the other way around, for example, April, May, June as 3 columns. And then you could have your budget figures for July, August, September, October, all the way through to the rest of the year, which then gives you your ability to see where you are and where you think where you are for the first 3 months, because you could also then put a subtotal column in there. And then from there out to the end of your financial year, with all the remaining budget figures, you can see where you're likely to end up. And again, with the budget figures, you could change which budget figures you're looking at, whether it be the worst case scenario or best case scenario. You can also add in the columns formulas. So if you wanted all of a sudden to show things as a percentage in here, similar as we looked at before, you can do that. You can decide just to add up certain figures at certain points if you wanted to. And literally just be adding a minus or timesing something in here if you wanted to. I can't think of a reason why you would off the top of the head, but you can. You can also put if statements in here. Again, how complicated do you want to make it? But you know, if you're that way inclined, you can. So you can very quickly in here build up reports that you would rather give to other people. You can literally, once you've done this, you can then save these as custom reports. So if I'm just going to get done to this for a moment, I'll go back. I don't want the formulas. And that's how easy it is to delete a column. So here, you've got save as, and you can save this as a custom report. Once you've done that, you call it profit and loss board, for example. You can make this the default then if you want to, but if you don't, you can save that, then go into your reports, go into your custom reports, and there it is. So you can save yourself a lot of time exporting data into Excel and then getting it into the right format that suits whoever it is that's asking for certain data on a monthly basis. You can quickly do that and then get these saved so that they're ready to go on a monthly, weekly, whatever basis whenever you need to run them.
And just to confirm, when I did that, if you save it into custom, when you go in 3 months' time, all of the dates are updated, so it knows that if you put February, March, April, in 3 months' time, it would do June, July, August.
Yeah.
So it really is you creating a template. But when you save it to published, that then can't be changed, can it?
Correct. Well, you can. The only way you can do it though is to copy it from published to custom and then change it as in there. You're absolutely right. As a published report, once you've put it in as published, you can't change it.
That's quite a good thing if you want to say, right, these are the month-end figures.
Yes.
Put them in,
Yes.
save it into published, so that when you go back and run it, pre-run it again, and it goes, well, that's not the same. You've always got the one that went out to the board, or that you showed the bank, etc.
Yes, and also you've got other things in here that you can do. Obviously, for exactly that, you can put lock dates in. So for example, which again you'd expect, financial settings. So within here, you've got lock dates. So all of a sudden, if you've gone past, if you're reporting on a monthly basis and your close off is whatever date it may be, and you've got to that date, you can quickly go in here, put in, whatever month has just gone, 30th of June, tick the box to stop all users making any changes whatsoever, so they're fixed. So then in the future, when you're suddenly running reports, you don't find someone's accidentally posted something back into somewhere and you're going, well, why has it changed? So again, you'd expect that of any accounting system, but just to show that it does actually do it. There is assurance dashboard. Sorry. What the other item that, if I can find it, remember where it is. There is one other set of reports that I can't remember exactly where it is now off the top of my head, that actually shows you the health of your business. So it actually pulls up a load of charts and graphs for some standard sort of business ratios. So sort of current assets over current liabilities, your cash position. But I cannot see where that is off the top of my head. I'll find out exactly where that is, and I'll send a little email round. But it's more if you're into your accounting ratios and bits and pieces and performance metrics. From that perspective, it just gives you, I think there's about 8 of them that are standard. You can't really play around with it as such. They're just there as fixed comparisons.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, so
yes.
Are there any questions from anybody that, if you want to unmute, if it's easier than typing it into the chat box that Rob hasn't been through, or a bit more info of what he has?
I've sent everyone to sleep.
I think that means you've nailed it, Rob.
I'll take that one.
I think if we got a few more minutes, if we were happy to sort of stay on a bit longer. You're going to do sort of the integrations and apps and things.
Yes. So very quickly, Xero App Marketplace. Very easy to find, and this really is a big differentiation bit for Xero compared to most other accounting platforms. These are literally a list of all the things that link to Xero. And you can very quickly down here decide what it is that you're looking for, whether it's a CRM system, inventory, so stock control, payroll and HR, point of sale, practice manager reporting, all manner of other bits and pieces. So, and even within that, if I type in here, which area of business I'm in, it will then show me all the stuff relating to the industry sector that I'm in, that it links to. So, although Xero does a lot of things, there are elements in Xero that work, but probably won't give you, depending on what your business is, and how it's set up might not give you the detail that you want, but these add-ons will, 9 times out of 10. Even if these don't, then you can have things designed specifically for your organization. And that's where Xero's API is unique in my view. As Xero developers, you can pretty much pull out any information that you need to, or push it into Xero. So if you've got a timesheet system that doesn't link with Xero, but you don't want to change, for example, it's not too difficult. An API or a web application in between those kind of things that pulls that information and pushes it into Xero, or pulls it back into Xero to form part of a full-blown management information system beyond just the accounts. So you can see how all your projects are doing in one place, how efficient all your staff are in one place, plus the accounts, plus then compare it to your forecasts. All those things are doable. And Xero has been set up specifically in that way. It's only ever been a cloud-based system, and for that reason, it's a lot more flexible than most things out there. So have a play. Literally, type in Xero App Marketplace, and you will come to this, and you can just have a little look. You might just be surprised just to how many things that you may already be using or are thinking about in the future as you grow, that you can find solutions online that can link into Xero for you. So it's another great way of saving a lot of operational time, and more importantly, getting into a situation where you really do benefit from the cloud and you're only entering data once. So you can see some of the sectors down here. So you've got professional services, accounting, manufacturing, hospitality, and then you've got all the functions. So whether it's invoicing and jobs, time tracking, CRM, all those bits. There's hardly, and even with these are all the ones that are already approved by Xero. There's also a lot of other things out there that already link with Xero, but might not just be on this approved list.
Super. Okay. Any final questions? I think my experience of Xero over the last sort of using it more and more as more clients are going onto it is, you do need a little bit of time to just sort of sit down and look into things and see where they are. But it's one of those things that if you want it to do it, then it probably can in some shape or form. So it's always worth pinging Rob an email and just saying, look, can it do this? And I'm sure Laura or Rob will give you some of their knowledge. But as I said, if it can't do it, if there isn't an app for it, then it is amazing the customization and what you can build. So compared to things like Sage, in the past, which were pretty closed book and you had to export everything out. If you are doing your management accounts in Excel and things like that, I think it's worth putting the effort in to getting the templates right. It'll take you more for the first one, but after that, everything is just literally pushing a button. And the beauty I had the other day was the P&L and the balance sheet didn't balance. And that was because there were some new accounts that had been added that were unallocated, and it just flagged those up, and then you just reallocated them, and it was done. What would have taken probably about 2 hours in Excel trying to work out what was missing, it was done in 2 minutes.
Yeah, even stupid things like, as you grow, you suddenly decide you're going to change your nominal coding structure. In Xero, not an issue, because A, it's easy to change. B, they've got a find and recode solution in Xero, where you can suddenly go and go, right, I want all these, and you can filter it. So you could say all these customers, are, I'll give you a good example. I had an engineering firm that just had one sales code. They then split it into F1 engineering, to precision tools, and something else. And I was very quickly able to not only do it for the year that they were working in, but actually do it historically for about 7 years. And it took me 2 or 3 hours, that's all. So it's very powerful tool. So it doesn't hold you back as you grow or change either.
Yeah. Super. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Rob, did you want to put your email address in the chat box, or Laura? So
yeah, Laura, go for it. You're typing away.
Copy and paste that so they know where to go.
Yep.
If there's anything you guys want in addition to what Rob's been through, if there's a particular area, then just email me. And if there's enough interest, then I'm sure we can put another event on in the future to give you a bit more insights to it. If you do want some more basic training on posting and things like that, then I'm sure Laura and Rob can help you either on a one-on-one basis or set up another group. The more I've used it, the more I think I probably wouldn't use anything else than Xero at the moment. So it does pretty much everything you need. So cool, lovely. Well, that's it. Nothing else. There's the details there in the chat box. I'll give you a minute to copy that down. But otherwise, just to say thank you to Rob and Laura for putting this together and making it work and giving you a bit more insight of what Xero can do. And hopefully, if you've enjoyed that, we'll have more of these going on. So keep an eye out on our emails and through LinkedIn. And I hope to see you at another event in the near future. So take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers.